phones, but I don't.
All right, we are live, and we learned something new today because people were able to join. I hope you guys weren't snooping on our conversation, but I believed it opened at 12. So welcome, everyone, to the third call. Today we're going to be talking about networking, growing, like pretty much the ways you can grow without spending money to grow, right? And we'll give some nuances on like paid growth as well. I'm feeling very feisty today, Delania. Thank you. I've had my nootropic and caffeine stack, so I'm on one. But in short, we'll just get started. But I want to preface. So I've gotten a few emails about the recordings that automatically get sent out for the actual webinar and how they may not be the same as the actual recording we went through. So I'm going to turn those off. So from now on, you won't get an email from Webinar Jam. You'll only get the email that I send out after I upload it to the actual membership, just so it's all in one place. They're all there. You don't have to watch from a separate browser. You can just log into the membership dashboard, see everything there, and you should be good to go. Someone said sound. Joey, Devin, can you hear me?
Everything sounds good to me.
All right. Cool. Hopefully it'll catch up. You'll be able to hear it in the recording if not. But let us start this slide. Start. Bum, bum, bum. Okay. So growth strategy and networking without paying any money. Who is this for? This is for those that want actionable steps for growing their following without relying on the algorithm. That's a very key point. Without relying on the algorithm. We aren't going to be talking about specific tactics for each platform, like, oh, animated reels are popping off right now. Go and hop on those so you can grow. Like you should know that growth is directly within your control. You don't have to hop on the latest trend if you want to continue growing. You don't have to wait for the Twitter algorithm to do X, Y, Z in order for you to grow. You just need to understand what we're going to talk about in these slides and call. So the next thing is for those that want to form a tribe of online friends that will strategize with you. Joey and I, along with many others, we all met at the start of our journey. Joey and I, as you guys know, are doing a lot of things together now. I'm flying out to see him in 2 weeks, and we're building a software. So all in all, like the people that you meet online, especially if they're like-minded and you can't find those people in the physical location that you're in, you're going to have a great time if you nurture those relationships and play the game for a long time, right? Hopefully this is something you guys plan on doing for 5, 10 plus years, possibly even more. I see myself doing it for the rest of my life, maybe not at the same output, but I just like writing every single morning. I like creation, and I feel like that belongs in many people's lifestyle. So the next is that it's for those that want to build high value connections that will help you grow and hand you opportunities. We'll discuss why later. And it's also for those that want a non-salesy way of breaking into client work. So if you've read through like sales scripts or DM scripts, they can feel rather salesy at first, especially if you haven't done it before. So this is a way of just getting in front of people, showing you have value to offer, and whether or not you make a sale, you can work with people, get experience, and possibly get referrals. So the first thing that we're going to go over is just the theory, as we always do. We're going to understand your main growth mechanisms, why they matter, and what to focus on. Number 2, we're going to go through examples. So run through examples of how you can organize time block and make this process fit into any routine. The third is just Q&A. So we'll have a bit more time. Joey and Devin are going to be answering some questions in the Q&A section of the chat. And at the end, we'll just have people ask questions there and we can answer them live in this fashion. We're not going to have people come up because there's a lot of people and that'll just take a lot of time, right? So we want to answer as much as we can. So let's start. Next thing. Spreading your name is the most important thing. Eyeballs and mouse equals leverage. So your job is to get your content in front of as many eyeballs as possible. There isn't any other way to grow. Content is not limited to what you post on your profile, right? A reply on someone else's profile or on someone else's content, or even a comment on a YouTube video, that's still content. You're still getting your profile in front of traffic, right? There's people reading the comments and they may click on your profile to follow you, right? So you have to get creative of how can I get my name in front of my profile, in front of as many eyes as possible. Now, we'll walk through a strategy I've done before on how you can do this, like nuanced ways, and just show like how creative you can actually get with this. But for now, just understand that you want your content to be shared so it's in front of people and they potentially follow you if the content is good. And you want to reply to people or comment or quote tweet or whatever the platform allows with value, right? We'll learn how to do this, but with value, so people click on your profile, et cetera, et cetera. You want to, everything you write online should be intentional, is what I'm saying. And then number two, you want to get your name in as many mouths as possible, right? So growth and sales aren't always immediate. The more people that know what you do equals more luck surface area. So the more people that know what you do and the value that you have to offer, the more they're going to spread your name, right? So we're going to talk about this in the context of DMing people, but think big picture about this, right? An author of a book that you pick up and you read, they're clearly illustrating that they have expertise on a specific topic. And books, so many people think they're not that valuable, like personal brands, like, oh, I shouldn't write a book because I can focus on content. But what they fail to realize is that a book holds all of these big ideas, and you are just increasing the chances of those ideas sticking in people's heads and those ideas being something they refer to go about in life. Like The Power of Now, the book, whenever I think of mindfulness, that's the first thing that comes to my mind. And so when anyone asks, like, okay, how do I start becoming more happier or at peace or calm, I'm going to refer them to that book. You know what I mean? And then they may go from that book to Eckhart Tolle's website, to his YouTube, watch some of his videos. And I don't know if he offers coaching, but he won't even need a crazy sales page at that point because people are already sold. They're like, this guy knows his shit. Of course, I'm going to pay whatever amount he asks, right? And authors have so much traffic to the point where they can charge $10, $20, $30, $40,000. They can host these $100,000 summits for high-level individuals and make their money that way. And this also brings into context why I do not think the creator economy is saturated and can never be saturated if people are continuously progressing or growing, because your products, your services, they evolve to the point where you're working with a certain amount of people, and when you evolve your products and services over time, you're desaturating the market under you, right? So I have sold web design products, I've sold freelancing products, and as I learned more, and as I refined who I want to work with and who I want to help, I, in essence, desaturated that market. I stopped talking about web design specifically. I stopped talking about whatever. It's the same thing with any big name. They are no longer talking about the things that help them grow at the beginning. And that's not to say that my way of doing things is any better than the way I was doing them before. It's just personal preference and how I've grown over time. So a few things to take into account there. Last, replies, direct messages, and mastermind groups are your main growth mechanisms. So we'll dive into those. And then, of course, the graphic. If you watch the latest YouTube video, I showed this graphic as well. It was in a newsletter too. But in short, like 20 years ago versus today, there are much less barriers of opportunity like standing in your way, right? On the internet, you can have someone, if someone retweets your content, and let's say it's a small account, but more people like it, and then a bigger account sees it, and then they like it, and even if they don't retweet it, they like it, it boosts it. And so then an even larger account sees it, they like it or they retweet it. And now you're on this completely other side of the internet where the people that you want to work with and want to attract see your content and follow you. And then over time, over, let's say, a year of that happening with a lot of content and the results compounding, you can see where this stuff leads. Where like yesterday, so I'm buying a house right now, actually closed, or I'm getting the keys tomorrow, which is sweet. But the real estate agent was like yesterday, not even in the entire time I was working with her, she's like, yeah, I mentioned I was working with you to like my team and they want you on a podcast. They love your work. And I'm like, first, that's weird. I don't want them to know where I live. Second, holy shit, like even these random people that I meet on the street in Arizona have seen my content and like my work. So I was just like, and that's after 3 years. So timescale. So the first growth mechanism are replies, because replies are directly within your control and they're available to you on any platform you're trying to grow on. This is same for TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, whatever. There's comments, there's replies, right? This is something that you should schedule into your days, especially at the beginning. And with replies, authenticity always wins. So this is kind of aside from the point here, but when you're going to reply to someone, as we'll learn how to do, just look through the replies and see what the average reply looks like, right? That you just need to be conscious of the market of replies, right? And what people are saying. And then you take those into account and you do something that will stand out, okay? You don't want to be the same as everyone else in this case, or else you're just, that it's the same. So follow accounts you actually want to engage with. You should already be doing this. You should be following people that you like consuming their content, you want to reply to, and just people you'd want to work with, people you're inspired by, people that you could see yourself growing with. I wouldn't limit yourself to like only large accounts. I would diversify, right? You have like a following bank budget of like 500 people, maybe, that you would actually want to follow, right? So those 500 people should be intentional, and they should be people where you actually like consuming their content, and they have a similar audience that you want to attract, right? Because your niche is you're following people that have your same interests to attract people that have those same interests. Next thing is to read their content and treat it as a way to generate tweet ideas. This is the main thing with commenting, is that people go in and they just, like, there's a few where they'll comment, this is a great insight, thank you. And it's like, that's not giving me, maybe their intention isn't to grow, right? I'm not saying that it is. I'm just saying that some people that are trying to grow go in and leave that comment for the sake of getting eyeballs on their content and profile. But what's in it for them? They're not going to follow you, right? So you have to still treat it as a tweet. And the cool thing here is that when you're just starting out, you can tweet or you can reply with a tweet structure and then just copy paste that over to your scheduler or straight on Twitter, change it up a tiny bit so it makes sense on its own, and then post it. And that's how you write tweets at the start. Two birds, one stone right there, where you reply, copy paste it as a tweet. And then the third thing is to just keep in mind that persuasion and attention capture still applies, right? It always applies. Hook, value, conclusion. So when people are going into the comments, they're just skimming as if they're writing on social, or as if they're scrolling on social media anyways. They're just skimming to see what catches their attention or generates interest, so then they can dive deeper into the rabbit hole. So your content should abide by the things that we talked about in the last call with the 10 commandments of engagement. So you need a hook. You need to give some value on top of the tweet, and then wrap it up with like a piece of advice or something like that. But you have to be mindful here that you're still being a human and that you're not crossing the barrier of, I'm just trying to steal this guy's followers, right? You need to add some form of value to the tweet. So when in doubt, use personal experience. This will result in the most profile clicks. I'll go through we're going to run through this in an example when I start replying to people, just to like show how I do it. And so lastly, be sure that your picture and username actually look like a creator account. This is important. We went over this in the first call, just like refining and iterating your profile picture, your username, whatever it may be. But if you blend in with the crowd of consumers that are in the comments, they're going to see you as a consumer, and they're not going to have a reason to click right onto your profile and potentially follow you. So important notes is that replying can get extremely time consuming, right? If you don't have a system or a structure of your own creation and you don't time block it on your calendar or other things, it's going to seem like you don't have time to actually do this, when in essence you just need to be intentional about it and schedule it into your day. So one way to do this is with Twitter lists, and TweetDeck can help with this. I'll walk through this as well when we go over examples. The next thing is to just block out time on your calendar. In the morning or night, midday, whatever it may be, just block out 30 minutes, right? Start with 30 minutes. If you can reply well within 30 minutes and that's sustainable, do it. If you fall in love with replying to other people and making connections, bump it up to an hour. Test, refine, iterate, improve. Just start with something. And then the last, use this as a way to build connection with other creators, not just to swipe their audience. They will notice. They really will notice. This is mostly in the past, but I've gotten petty about this, where I'll see someone who's like just running through, commenting on every single thing. Like all I see in my notifications is them. And I'm like, oh yeah, they're just trying to swipe. Like they don't give a shit about my content. They don't give a shit about the people in it. I block them, right? I don't do that anymore. But something to keep in mind that I can give like a little bit of personal experience on. So comment on small, medium, and large accounts for maximum effect. You don't just like, you're not going to be there's multiple reasons to do this, where you're commenting on large. So not only can you get your profile in front of them and have those large accounts become more aware of the value that you have to provide, but you're networking with medium accounts because they're more likely to have opportunities that they'll pass down to you. And you network with smaller accounts, or in this case, like around your same follower count, so you can DM them, connect, strategize, and grow together. And as you grow, you still kind of want to maintain this, because the small accounts really appreciate it when a big account notices that they put a lot of effort into, let's say, a tweet or a post or something like that. So just give them positive feedback, it's a good thing to do. And so 5 to 30 replies a day is a good baseline. Just start small and increase, right? I personally don't like absolutes. There is no optimal number of replies that you can do. It's just good to stay consistent and let those replies compound over time as you have them as a consistent part of your day, right? 1% better every day applies to this as well as a habit. And so start small, test, iterate, do what you can. Don't get over analytical or like so worked up about not replying enough and all this other stuff. So more equals better at the start and doubles as tweet practice. So the thing with just starting out is that like nobody is really going to see your content. So your content is mainly for practice and to just fill your profile with, hey, I have some value to provide. And now I'm speaking under the lens of Twitter here, but this works for everything. It's the same with YouTube. Like if you're not getting any views, that doesn't mean to stop posting videos. That means that you just need to practice to get better and try to drive more traffic to your profile. So next up is mastermind groups or internet group chats. So the first lever was replies. Second lever is masterminds. And pretty much what this is you forming a group chat like you would with your friends, but online on something like WhatsApp, Telegram, even just like a Twitter, Instagram, DM group, whatever it may be. If you're on YouTube, yeah, it makes more sense to bring people to like Telegram because there aren't DMs on YouTube. So you have to take your efforts to a more top of funnel social media platform like Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and go from there. So A mastermind is where you share strategies you learn, just giving value. Giving value makes you important. When I was in group chats and I was like building out a project or a product, and I created like a Notion template for, let's say, writing a thread, or I created a system for myself to write threads better, I'd send it to them and just be like, hey guys, I made this. Hope you find value in it. That's it, right? It just shows value. And you can use that later as well. Next is to help each other grow as you see fit. I was in like a few engagement groups in the past. An engagement group is pretty much where you just share other people's content. A lot of the structures, they don't really work. They usually fall apart after like 2 or 3 weeks because some people just spam and like don't do anything. So I'll give you a better way, or it's to the right there, but I'll discuss that. But the last thing is that they're just a place to talk shit and have fun, right? This business stuff can get boring. It can get lonely. It doesn't have to be. You can like have fun with the group chats that you're in and slowly connect with the people that are doing the same thing as you, right? It makes sense to have a group of people that you can't find in the real world to just be able to bounce ideas off of and have a good time with. So a select few of these people will create immense future opportunity. Like Joey and I, we've grown to the point where like we just have more opportunity. I don't really know how to say it any other way. But the one thing I will point out here is that you're going to like gain and lose friends along the way. People are going to have different goals. They're going to move in different directions. It's fine. It's just like real life. You'll eventually cultivate like a network of like five to 10 people where you like they're your best friends pretty much. And then you grow together. But on the right, my favorite style of quote unquote engagement group is just trading with people, 3 to 5 people that you resonate the most with, right? So instead of being in a group chat and just spamming with your content in order for people to share it, you just reach out to someone that you're close with and you'd be like, hey, do you want to like comment on each other's posts every day? I'll send you a post. You send me a post. We'll comment. It'll help with engagement, right? Now, this isn't necessary. It's just an extra bonus. Some people may think this is like unethical because they haven't experienced it. I recommend not judging what you haven't experienced. And other things, like it just turns them off. It doesn't sound right. And I would just say, give it a shot, right? It's just a little boost. It's a tool. It's not a principle. So you can use this if you would like. It 100% helps. And it helps you form connections and get in front of more people. So next thing is just the non-needy networking process. So this is there is the entire like document in the Notion template itself. So you don't have to remember all of this. You can walk through there and like actually see the nuances of it, but I just want to give a big picture rundown before we look at some examples. So step 1 is to just reach out to people that you want to reach out to. This is where a lot of freelancers go wrong. I went wrong with this in the past. That's how I know, is they choose to work with people that they don't want to work with, right? Because they have money. They know that there's money flowing there. So they're like, I want money. I'm going to like try to reach out to these people. You have nothing in common. The work, you're not going to like the work because of who you're doing it for, et cetera, et cetera. It just makes sense. This is why we are going you are the niche route, is because you want to work with people that you actually enjoy. Hopefully you enjoy yourself so that you can enjoy the people that you're working with if you are the niche. But in short, reach out to people you're inspired by, you'd want to work with, you would want to strategize with, or you see potential for mutual benefit. So where do you find these people? Just who you're following online, right in front of your face as you're scrolling the timeline, and a tweet pops up. You don't have to overcomplicate this. You don't have to get super crazy about like having a CRM to generate or to like manage your leads and all this stuff. Just reach out to people that you want to reach out to, and the rest takes care of itself. I can go into all of the nuances, but that would take all day. I would just encourage you to think beyond the initial transaction of hey, I'm going to DM this guy, even if he's not exactly in my target audience or wouldn't be able to message me, but he can spread my name because he likes me to the people that need my work, right? So eyeballs and mouths, that's all you should focus on. Get eyeballs on your content, get your name in people's mouths. Second thing is to just send an inspired compliment, right? So you're scrolling the timeline, maybe you're looking at their website, maybe you read their newsletter, maybe you saw a YouTube video of theirs. Copy the link to it, send it to them, and tell them what resonated with you about it. Maybe you pick a part of the actual video or post itself and then talk about a personal experience you've had and just say it was a great tweet, right? So here's an example where I just say, what's up, Dan? This tweet hit me hard. I've been going through it the past couple of days, and this instantly gave me some relief. Thank you. That's all you need to do. Leave it at that. The next thing is to show interest. So if they respond, then you're looking to align your goals. You're looking to share a perspective so you can continue the conversation. So you look at their profile, you look at their website, whatever, you try to find what they're doing and assume what their goals are. Or if you don't know and you can't find anything, just be like, what are you working on nowadays? What are your plans? What are you going to build? Do you have any products that you're building out? Do you how's business going? Simple as that. Just get them talking about their goals. Ask questions related to their goals. So my example is, what are your next plans with Modern Mastery? It's been crazy seeing it grow. I'm curious what you've got in store. And this is very relevant to me right now as we're planning Modern Mastery 2.0. And so I'm passionate about that, and I'm just going to let them know, right? I'm going to send a long-ass message about what I'm doing, and I'm going to be interested in coming back to that conversation. So the fourth thing is to lead with value. So once you understand their goals, and if you understand sales or just content in general, you're kind of noting the pattern of identify a problem in relation to the goal, help them, and then move from there, right? It's all the same human psychology. It apply this, everything we're talking about is just applied human psychology. So lead with value. Once you know their goals, you want to find, create, or keep an eye out for resources that will help them reach those goals. So if they tell me, oh, right now I'm taking a step back from business and I'm trying to work on my social life, right? And you come across a video where it's how to 5 steps to being social. And then you watch it and you give them a tip and you send the link to the video and be like, hey, I remember you talking to me about this. Here's a video that may help. Or in the case where they're like, oh, I want to grow on Twitter, I'm starting to write Twitter threads, et cetera, I can send them one of my Notion templates that I've created for myself that would be valuable, that could potentially help them with that thing. And then you're not asking for anything here. You're just like, here, this may help. And then you're building that connection, that relationship, right? So the fifth thing is to get on a call. This is optional, but making the face-to-face connection is priceless. And you can give more value on the call because it's dedicated one-on-one time without breaks between the actual messages. When I first started, I was just getting on calls left and right. Joey and I got on a call. Wiz of Ecom and I, Aaron Williams, literally almost every big account you'll see on Twitter right now, I've talked to and connected with directly because it's a good thing to do. So the sixth thing is to follow up with value, and that is to just continue sending them things that remind you of them or their goals, right? So if you read a book and something comes to mind, send them a DM. Just keep the relationship going. And then step 7, this can happen at any time, as we'll see in an example I have, but you follow up with an ask. And this doesn't even have to be a direct ask, but this is how you get retweets, shares, and engagement on your posts from big accounts. And by big accounts, I mean anything above 10,000, right? You have to just be mindful that the bigger fish you try to hit, the less likely they are to actually do this. So if you want a very good way of doing it, aim for 10 to 100,000 followers, and they're usually a lot more responsive than someone with 1 million, right? So we'll just go straight over an example of this so you know what I mean. But that is it for the slide. The next thing is screen share, and you guys get a peek at my insane DMs. So we are here, and okay, so we're focused on this, but this is Dickie. So Dickie and I, we had lunch earlier. He's actually coming out like next week, not for me specifically, but he wants to get some people together here. And so this was in 2021. So almost 2 years later, like we've met in person, we're meeting in person, we've talked to people time and time again, or not talked to people, but we've connected people with each other time and time again and have helped each other grow, right? We're a pretty damn good connection at this point, and this is the start of it all. So he just started with an inspired compliment, right? This is just how it goes. Hey, Dan, thoroughly enjoyed your chat with my man, Danny. It's Danny Miranda. Yeah. So on the podcast. So he listened to a podcast and then reached out to me. He said, I've been saying iteration and awareness for a few days now, super powerful. I find myself rotating with 2-word mantras like that. So he just sent an inspired compliment and how it relates to his life and what he's been doing. I said, what's up, man? Glad you enjoyed the pod. That's literally it. And then Dickie's very good at this. Like I would argue that Dickie went straight for this method that we're talking about. I actually don't know any of this. Maybe he talks about this in his cohort. Not entirely sure. But this is what he did. He's just like, thought you'd enjoy this, something that should be required reading before people get email privileges. So this doesn't even have anything to do with our conversation, but he framed it. I knew what he was doing here, and so I still engaged and retweeted it for him. But I knew what he was doing, but it's still a very like authentic way of going about it, where thought you'd enjoy this, something that should be required reading before people get email privileges. But it was just a thread, right? And threads result in a good amount of followers. And so I read through it, liked it, commented, retweeted, and it did well. And then after this, he's doing the same thing where he's following up with value or just showing interest, right? Where I posted this talking about fitness, right? Which I don't talk about too much more, but he's interested in fitness. Like you'd be surprised when I talk about incorporating your interests, you'd be surprised how many people share similar interests as you, even if they don't display it online, right? Dickie doesn't talk about fitness too much, but he just asks like, how's this going? I've been doing this, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, just personal experience. And then I talk about what I'm doing. And then he sent something else where it's just like threw this together in relation to fitness, right? So he threw this together knowing that I'd benefit from it. And then the conversation just kept going, right? So like when in doubt, just send something that reminds you of the person that you're trying to connect with. And then occasionally send your own stuff and be like, hey, I thought you'd like this. It talks about this. Maybe your audience would benefit. And then at least that'll get you to like, oh, I didn't even like it. Whatever. But it'll get you to like read through it, like, comment, whatever it may be, and then go from there, right? So when you're trying to get eyes on your content, sending this to people that you're trying to connect with, this is how you do it, right? Where if I come through and retweet this, and if I'm keeping connections in the DMs with 5 to 10 people at a time, then that's a pretty damn good way of growing without any like crazy tactics, right? So that's just going over the DM side of things. The next thing would be just scrolling the timeline to find something to comment on. So let's look here. Tim Denning, cool guy. It's weird how the modern job is designed to make you operate on 0% creativity, write online after hours to save your life from boredom that kills brain cells. And then, Joey, you may be able to help me out with this one. But if I were to talk from personal experience, I just go Joey or at Joey.
I don't know if it's just me, but I'm still seeing Dickie Bush's thread.
Share this tab instead. That is annoying. Can you see it now?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, so for those that missed it, I just scrolled the timeline, found Tim Denning's tweet, literally front page. You didn't miss anything. But then reading the tweet, it's what it says, and then I'm commenting from personal experience or just something that I know to add value. Joey Justice talks about writing in the evening and editing in the morning. Wait, what's the reasoning behind writing in the evening? Oh,
Default mode network and energy and focus.
Would you say task positive in the morning?
Yeah.
Looks like a Tron. Boom. Easy peasy. So like I'm kind of sort of writing it in a tweet manner here where this would catch attention because it's a big idea. Where he talks about writing in the evening and editing in the morning, and people are like, oh, that sounds interesting. Why? And then you talk about the why, wrap it up, works like a charm. Right. So I could easily spin this into a better tweet where or even Joey could, where it starts with write in the evening and edit in the morning. Why? The default mode network is more active in the afternoon. This leads to more creativity. Just spill words on a page. In the morning, the task positive network is more active. Use that for focused editing. Works like a charm. And I feel like that'd be a pretty good tweet. But we reply with that. And you just do this, right? You just go down, you scroll, you actually engage. So just make an intention to get on and engage with people, read their content. And if you struggle with this, one thing you can do is just create lists. So I have a bunch, but let's see. So here I have one with Justin, Nicholas Cole, Dickie Bush, and Ben Meir, and Austin. So these are people that I'm connected with right now on LinkedIn because they have huge followings on LinkedIn. And so we're kind of exchanging some form of value here where they're commenting on my stuff on LinkedIn. I'm commenting on their stuff on Twitter. And it's rare now where this is like an old list, but I could come in here and just find 3 people or find one tweet of all of theirs and then leave a comment, right? And if I block out 30 minutes to go through and read curated posts from people that I actually want to connect with, then it becomes a lot more streamlined, if you will, right? So I could do that here. Another thing, so for just finding people to network with, this is a bit more difficult on the timeline itself. Well, actually, no, not really. This would make sense. So if I want to connect with Justin, or let's just go to the same one. So if I want to reach out to Tim, what I would do is just come here, copy the link to the tweet, and rather than replying, I could just send this to him via DM. So I could come here. Well, I didn't reply. We talk on Telegram. But just paste this here and then write, what could I say? This is so true. I already forgot what the tweet said. This is so true. I've been writing in the afternoons, blah, 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 right? You just, it makes sense. You do the same thing. You just send an inspired compliment, talk about your personal experience, and then as time goes on, whether he replies or not, then what happens as we went over with Dickie Bush. So let me make sure that I'm not missing anything. So we talked about replies, we talked about DMs, we talked about mastermind groups, but that's simple. That's just like a one-on-one, or not the mastermind groups, but the other thing where you just talk one-on-one with the other person and share with them. So I do follow Justin. Justin is dope. But Justin Liao. And his sleep product is pretty good. I already take like magnesium, L-theanine, and something else, but plug for Justin is that he has, what's it called? Portal. Cool sleep supplement. But, okay, so Joey or Devin, any questions that stand out that I should talk about here?
So I think one, and we see this question sometimes in MMHQ as well, how would you advise beginners structure their engagement efforts? So, we see people who get burnt out with it really quickly. And it's such a critical part of the game when they're starting out because it helps them get more eyeballs on their profile and ultimately their content, and it helps them build their network. But what would be your thoughts on building a sustainable strategy for that for people who are kind of new to it?
Yeah. So like the only reason that I give out like numbers, so like 5 to 30 replies a day, is just for structure. Like it's just a starting point. In reality, like when I did it, I'm very structured with my routines, but I'm not too structured with other things, where like with replies, I just reply to people. Like that's it. I didn't count them. I didn't do anything. I just went in, replied. If I replied 3 times, cool. If I replied 10 times, cool. You have to zoom out and think like time horizon. If you miss a day of replying, you're not going to die. Your brand isn't going to explode. You just didn't do it that day. Cool. So zoom out. You're doing this for 10 years plus. And so if you're, if you like are in this consistently, then you shouldn't have a reason to worry. And I would encourage you to like think about that reaction that you're having of the overwhelm, because it's scarcity. It's scarcity where you think I'm not going to make it by XYZ time point. And so you just have to understand the expectations that you have in your own mind relating to what you're supposed to do. Just because you don't meet the number of 5 to 30 replies that Dan told me to go after, it doesn't matter. Just reply consistently on a daily basis. If it helps and you can stay consistent with doing 5 times a day, do 5 times a day. If you can do 10, do 10. If you're on a roll and you want to write 100, write 100. So just in general, reply and nurture relationships. I saw the question of how many DMs a day. It's the same thing. It's just go through it, like start with 5, right? Just set a goal of 5, try that out, see how it went. If you can increase, good. If you were nearing burnout, decrease to like 4, and then try that and see what you can sustain. And then you're kind of good to go. So there's no set number. There's no optimal number. Like I could reach out to one person who decides to retweet my thread and it goes viral. I could reach out to the next person and nothing happens. It's just a matter of consistency, as all things. So question from Paulina. So follow all the big accounts we like. Don't just add them to a list. I would if you're going to add them to a list, follow them, because they'll know if you're engaging on their stuff, but you don't follow them, they're not going to pay any attention to you, right? It just shows that you're trying to like receive one part of the transaction without giving the other, and you're just there to swipe from them. So yes, that's what I'm saying is like the lists are a way to organize this so it makes it more streamlined and you aren't flooded with other content. But you should really only be following people that you want to follow and that you would see yourself engaging with or networking or working with, right? Because you think about it, even in terms of client or lead generation, like I don't think you're going to work over, if you're charging like high prices, you're not going to be working with over 500 people by the time that you pivot out of client work, or by the time that you start using another lead generation method to attract clients. Ooh, good one. Okay, from Tom. How might these lessons be leveraged for or evolved for creative music artist profiles versus selling a consulting service or product? So, I'm not a producer, but I've been like, I like electronic dance music. Like, I follow a lot of people in that space, and I've DM'd people like Flostradamus, a few smaller DJs. Sometimes I'll send out a DM to people that I'm going to go see, but it's the same exact thing where in the music industry, the only way you're actually going to, well, not only way, I'm being dramatic here, but if you want to land big gigs, then reach out to the people that actually give you the opportunity to do those gigs, right? So if you DM someone like a producer that you want to be like, then you DM them, you be friendly, you walk through the process that we said, and then instead of sending like a tweet for them to retweet, send a link to your song. So then if they listen to it, and from the relationship that you've built with them, then they're more likely to listen to it, and they're more likely to either give you a shout out, or you'll be at the top of their mind if they have an opening for a gig, right? And then as you grow your audience, as you have more value to give them in terms of like, hey, I have 50,000 followers, I can help promote this event, then you're going to have the picking over the person who's very good with 0 followers when you may be average with however many followers, right? I'm sure we've all been to concerts where you're like, how did this guy even get up on stage? He's not that good. It's because they have more value to give, and they've done their due process with networking and digging their way into the industry. So to wrap that question up, Tom, it's the same exact thing, just you're trying to get more eyes on your music. And yeah. The product I mentioned for sleep was Portal, Portal. How do you structure a thread? We will be talking about that in the next call. How old is Dan? I'm 26. Okay, I really deep dived into networking, virtual and e-networking, building digital first relationships. I may be biased from B2B world, but in my honest opinion, LinkedIn is a much better networking tool than Twitter. So now I wonder, am I in my bubble, or folks on Twitter are in their bubble? It's the principles of it. I wouldn't even consider it networking. I'd consider it just like social, like being social, like understanding how to have a conversation with a person. I would argue that the culture of LinkedIn is much more open to networking and work because they have money, they've been exposed to that, but just like being able to like have a conversation with someone on Twitter in the creator economy, yeah, it's better. Like I would agree that LinkedIn is a better networking tool, but that doesn't take away that every single platform will require you to network. Question from David: did Sam Evans talk to you about school? No, he hasn't brought it up. He was just curious about Modern Mastery. He's probably running through the same framework that we talked about today, where he'll eventually follow up with, hey, you should consider getting onto school. And I might, because we're thinking of Modern Mastery 2.0. Nathaniel, I feel like a lot of replies just repeat the original tweet or fall into some platitude. What's a method to bring novel ideas in the replies? Personal experience, as we talked about. And as we mentioned, like reading through the replies to make sure that you aren't doing the same thing as everyone else. Because I would agree that is just, it's not a very good strategy. It works in some cases, but I feel like they're replying just to reply. And with the process that we've run through, it it should be clear by now that like you want to reach out to people and you want to reply to people where you actually have something to say. Like you're actually interested in the content. I wouldn't just reply to reply. Because when you think about it, it's like, okay, yeah, I'm going to go and spam 10 replies just to hit my goal of 10 replies a day, and those replies suck, then you're going to get less results than if you were to just put one quality reply on a tweet that you liked, right? So you have to make sure that your efforts are high leverage, where you're putting the most into them for maximum results rather than just doing whatever you got to do for minimal results. Is the Twitter professional account similar to creator accounts on IG? Yeah, it's the same thing. I personally don't think they do anything aside from add a fancy thing to your profile to show that you're a creator. On LinkedIn, it's a lot more important because turning on creator mode is what actually allows you to get followers rather than connections. So that's an important distinction. But on Twitter and other things, it's more so just saying like, hey, I'm a creator. Is following too much people a problem? I have a big list, but I don't follow them because they will most likely never see my content. Following too many people can definitely be a problem. Because one, you're not going to be able to consume their content, right? Like if you're building something, if you're writing your own content, you're creating your own stuff, it's going to be very difficult to keep up with even 500 people. It's going to be close to impossible. And if you're following like 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 people, you may be like ratioing yourself. If you only have 100 followers, but 4,000 following, and someone clicks on your profile and you're trying to attract followers, that's just unattractive, where they're going to see that and be like, oh, like this person is just, they're either doing follow and unfollow, or they're like just here to consume a bunch of information, or they're doing something, but they're not providing a lot of value. So I'd recommend, like, again, you can't really give a range, it's personal preference, but I would recommend keeping your following under 1,000. And preferably have your follower count higher. Now, of course, this isn't really possible if you're starting from 0 followers, but it's a good metric. How would you structure your content if you have articles, live trainings, posts, reels, tweet threads, and more to post on a given week? It's up to like testing and constant experimentation. Like I could give you my process where it's like I write my newsletter like every morning for 45 minutes. I write and edit and then I publish, and then that gets turned into a YouTube video. And then I could condense that into a thread, but I've taken out threads for now just because I have other projects. Tweets are like second nature. It's really about just finding your own balance and trying to constrain it to a certain time frame. Like putting on your schedule, okay, I'm going to do this, 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 and this on these days. But then as you do that, this is how you like create a system in general, is you create a system that is going to suck at first, and then you do it, and you note a problem, you self-reflect, you change it for the next week until you reach the system that just flows seamlessly. And as you're doing this, you're able to combine things, you're able to like figure out exactly what works for your specific goals at the time. So like the way that I do it from a very big picture is I give myself 4 hours every single day. Sometimes I work more than that, sometimes I work less, but I'm trying to pack everything into the 4 hours, and whatever throws the flow off, then I come back and I say, okay, I need to switch this, I need to switch this, maybe I need to eliminate this entirely, and then go from there. For DMs, do you recommend reaching out to similar level accounts or large accounts as well? Both, for sure, because you're trying. you're trying to accomplish multiple goals here. You're not only trying to get your name in front of big accounts so that they'll share you, but you're trying to get your name in front of small accounts so that you have a network that you can grow with, and like you aren't left alone on this creator journey. So both. How would you use this strategy to grow a podcast? Mainly to get guests with a large following on the podcast, right? So you reach out, inspired compliment, ask about their goals if you want to, or after the inspired compliment and after they reply, you just be like, hey man, I'd love to have you on my podcast. We talk about this, this, and this. I remember you talking about this in one of your tweets. We could riff on that. It would be a great time. Are you up for it? And then you get them on the podcast, and like that's how you grow a podcast when you don't have a large following to fill that podcast with, right? So if you get someone with 100,000 followers on the podcast and they promote it to their audience when you launch it because you ask good questions and you made them sound smart, then their 100,000 follower audience are going to go and listen to your podcast, and now you retain some of those people for that podcast itself. The other way to do it, if you don't take guests, is to do the same thing, but just summarize the podcast in a thread. The key points, write a valuable thread, or even just a post, and then you share that with the people that you've been DMing and nurturing relationships with. Okay, where am I? Is someone like deleting these, or am I reading the wrong questions?
There's only a limited amount of chats that can be up at one time.
Oh, crap. I'm at the bottom. Okay. Productivity question. Better to work for a specific amount of time or achieve specific number of tasks? I would say tasks, but you're trying to fit them within a specific time so they get finished within then. Joey, do you have something on top of that?
So it's good to have time blocks that are dedicated to both types of work. So generally, it's better to focus on one particular thing or at least one particular type of work to minimize context switching and have these deep focused targeted blocks on things. Because when you switch and do something else or you multitask, you're essentially distracting yourself. And so that can greatly reduce your productivity. But there are times where you have to do a bunch of 2 to 5 minute tasks. And so you want to try to group those together so that you don't have 50 different things that are spread out all throughout your day. So if you're a morning person, earlier in the day, you want to leverage your energy and focus on things for like single tasks that take a longer period of time. And then later in the day, when you're less energetic and less focused, then you can do some of those smaller tasks and just kind of batch them together and get them knocked out. It's not a perfect system, but you can adapt it for your own daily structure and schedule. But the goal that you want to have is you want to try to minimize context switching. So again, like batch similar things together.
All right. So these are getting a bit crazy and we're coming up on time. But to answer a few of these, like I saw one on like more about mastermind groups, more about content creation strategy, like me talking more about them isn't going to help. You going out and actually forming one and figuring it out is going to help. My content strategy at like almost 2 million followers is not going to be anywhere near what yours is going to be, especially if you don't have the same time, or like it's literally my entire life. So the thing with that is like, that's what we went over in the past call. So watch that, start to create your own, improve with time. Let's see. Okay, you guys are answering questions. Joey, was there one or two more that stood out as valuable based on the topic that we talked about today?
I can't really think of anything. I've answered 90% of the questions. There are some people that seem like they want to produce content on multiple different platforms, so they're trying to figure out how to manage that. And
No.
it sounds like ultimately it's about repurposing stuff based on the platform.
Yeah. Okay, so here's my advice on this, because this is a question, like, start with one. If you can repurpose, like if you just copy paste a tweet to LinkedIn, that's great. But you're not going to grow on LinkedIn if your growth strategy or your priority of growth is on Twitter, right? We talked about DMs, we talked about replies, we talked about groups, etc. Those growth mechanisms should be focused on one platform and one platform only, preferably top of funnel. So Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, others which are like a little bit under that, YouTube, podcasts, etc., that are more authority building, they take more skill in terms of like the combination of skills that you need, then like you can focus on those. But if you're not growing, then I'd recommend growing on a platform where growth is much easier and you're much more in control of the growth itself, like Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever, with what we talked about today. And then you fuel YouTube, podcast, whatever it may be, with your top of funnel platform. And so in terms of repurposing and trying to like go ham on all platforms, it may make sense for like short form content with like reels and TikToks and be able to cross post those everywhere. But then like when it comes to the content that's actually going to result in authority, sales, etc., where you're nurturing them with like a lot of content over time and with other things, it personally doesn't sorry, I keep looking up chat and getting distracted. That's just the main thing I'd recommend. Focus your growth efforts on one, and then once you have growth on that platform, then you actually have value and validated ideas. Because that's the other thing, is when you're cross-posting to all platforms and not focusing on any for growth, you have no idea what kind of content is going to do well or not, right? And so if you focus on one and you're actually getting eyes on your content and you can tell, you have data to the point of, oh, this topic does very well. Where if I have a viral tweet, or let's say I have 10 viral tweets and 50,000 followers, and then when I go over to Instagram and I repost those 10 viral tweets, and I focus on DMing people on Instagram in order to share those, I'm going to grow 10 times faster than if I were just repurposing stuff. Now, of course, you can do what's it called? Like you can copy and paste or cross-post shorts and whatever it may be. That's awesome. Do that. But focus your growth efforts, because that's the most time-consuming thing, on one platform of your choice. How to promote long-form content, same thing. Just plug it in a tweet or post. Keep in mind hook, value, conclusion. Lead into it. Dan, you had tons of unread DMs. Yeah. For large accounts like yours, what would grab your attention to get a convo started? Or are there other channels the message disappeared? Are there other channels you reach? So there's 300 people in here. So I wouldn't recommend 300 people emailing me, because then it would turn into the same thing. But email is usually the place where you're going to get in front of the large accounts. And like I don't like talking about this because it's hard to paint big picture understanding. But I get like blessing and a curse, like 20 DMs on every platform every hour. And if I respond to one, then that's another DM, and it can easily add up to like 40 in an hour if I'm online and responding. It's physically impossible, and I refuse to hire someone that isn't me to actually go in there and reply to people. That just seems even worse than me not replying. So it's difficult, but like you have to get creative, right? It would be either email or like connecting with someone else, like Noah Kagan, for example. He reached out to Justin Welsh. Justin Welsh connected him to me, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the main thing. Yes. Okay. All right. Before we call it quits, man, this is one of the hardest things about these live calls, is not being able to answer all the questions. But I also want everyone to keep in mind that this is not like a community style thing. It was all illustrated on the landing page, that there wouldn't be questions at all. So yes, Joey, was there any last ones that we should touch on to end?
No, not really. I think we're good.
I'll answer the last one from Tom because I like ending on this. What are we looking forward to either for the week or for the month? I'm closing tomorrow. I get keys tomorrow. I'm looking forward to that, finally. So all the stress related to closing is coming to an end.
I'm excited to start doing some animation stuff and move.
Yeah, we're going to be testing new reel styles, so keep an eye out for that because the trend is coming to an end.
You can't spell trend without end. I'm looking forward to seeing Dan here in a couple weeks and slamming YouTube more.
Yes. All right, we're going to end it after this one. I keep looking over and I feel compelled. I'm like spazzing out. I want to answer them all. But reading list of current books or past books. Look up Danco 7 books on YouTube. Those are ones that I will always recommend for the life of me. They're so good. And if you read them, you'll notice everything that I talk about and how they all connect.
So I do see there's one question that you may have answered it. I've been looking at. It's just I see a lot of people asking it. It's about doing content bilingually. I don't know if there's any.
Yes. So I haven't done it, right? So it's very difficult for me to give advice. Like if I were to give advice, it'd be just like do it and see how it goes. If you're in this for 10 years, 3 months of trial and error isn't going to hurt. Second, the advice that Joey and I have been giving mainly is just go English. Pull inspiration from Jose Rosado. He was literally writing his tweets in Google Translate for like the first year, and he was closing graphic design clients left and right for Twitter banners, right? So it's possible. And like when we're asked about like the Spanish market or the French or the Dutch market, I've never even seen a Spanish, French, or Dutch post on my timeline. So like I'm not in that market at all. I can't gauge how big it is, but I do know that the English market is huge. And so I'd recommend that. But that's like really the only advice I can give aside from trial, error, figuring it out yourself, and then being able to answer that question for another bilingual creator and maybe creating a solution around that. So opportunity is everywhere. Thank you guys for showing up today. As I said, I'm going to turn off the like recording emails where it sends the recording because it's not accurate. So expect an email from me directly when I mention that this recording is uploaded to the membership. That should be up in minimum 1 hour, maximum 3 hours. We'll give it that. But okay, I appreciate everyone showing up today. I hope it truly helped. I'm bad at outros, as many of you know. So see you later.
See you guys.
Bye.
Here's Scott.